Since we open our voting stations 7 in the morning, we bring strong. I'm joined here in this particular briefing by the commissioners of the Electoral Commission. I've got next to me Deputy Chief Electoral Officer Mr. Maseko Shiburi. Next to him is Dr. Masuku, Commissioner of the IEC, and then followed by Chairperson of the Electoral Commission, Ndate Miepia, and then followed by the Vice Chairperson of the IEC, Commissioner Love, then followed by Judge Pillay, Commissioner of the IEC, as well as Ndate Mashinini, Commissioner of the IEC. With that having been said, welcome back to where things happen. The National Results Operations Center will be giving an update throughout the day to ensure that all of us are in the same boat. Besides this briefing, we've got another one scheduled around 7 p.m. tonight. But where we are currently, let's hear it from Maseko Shiburi, DCO.
Good afternoon. The Commission reports a smooth start to national and provincial elections for 2024. By 7 o'clock, 93% of our network of 23,292 voting stations were reported open, both physically and online. The remainder of the voting stations at which we were delayed opened within the hour. We also unfortunately report that there were a number of voting stations at which we opened late, owing to delays on our material handling, also related to issues of escort where there were not enough security services to escort our material, including protest in certain communities. In most stations, queues had already formed before the stations were meant to open at 7. This, we think, is testament to the enthusiasm of South Africans to record their political choice. The Commission respects its obligation to ensure that each of the 27 million registered voters will receive an opportunity to record that choice before voting closes this evening. At 12 o'clock, the election operations around the country were reported to have been in good progress with minimal incidences that we are dealing with. Some of the incidences that we had to deal with are the following: late delivery of ballot papers, mostly in the city of Johannesburg and Region 3, which is the Sandton, Dunkeld, and Heidi Park area, as well as the Reduport area, because of departure to the strict instruction of delivery. People were being innovative, and in the process, they delayed the supply of voting materials to those stations. In the Eastern Cape, we had 5 voting stations that were not opened owing to community protest. Again, there we have confirmation that working with the South African Police Department, the voting stations are now open. There were 2 in Ntabankulu, 1 in Winnie Mandela, 1 in Port St. John's, and 1 in Enyandeni. Similarly, there were 20 voting stations at which we opened beyond 9 o'clock in the area of eThekwini, as well as in Umzi Wabantu, where owing to community protest, the station could not open, even though our staff were ready and able to administer the electoral project. The Commission assures voters that adequate supplies of all material, including 90 million ballot papers for all the 3 ballot types, are available, and every voter will be assisted to vote before voting stations close. We use this opportunity to remind voters of the following. 1, that they may only vote at a voting station at which they are registered, unless they had by the 17th of May given pre-notification to the Independent Electoral Commission to indicate the station at which they will vote and to do so and present at that station today on the 29th of May. That said, A voter who had given pre-notification to vote elsewhere but finds themselves at their voting district, that voter will be allowed to vote at that voting station and they will be entitled to receive all their 3 ballots. The Commission also confirms that voting kicked off at various correctional facilities across the country to enable inmates who are registered and incarcerated an opportunity to cast a vote and in fulfillment of Section 24B of the Electoral Commission Act. We've just concluded a meeting with the National Party Liaison Committee. Similarly, similar structures are convening in provinces as well as in municipalities made up of all contesting parties and independent candidates so that we may receive reports and follow up on the issues that contestants are raising. The Electoral Commission wishes to thank voters who've already responded to the call to vote and appeals to all those who are remaining to do so before stations close at 2100 hours. All those voters who are in queues will be assisted to vote before the voting process concludes. In areas where we've had challenges with operating our voter management device seamlessly, we have issued instruction that voting should continue using the manual voters roll. The manual voters roll is the legislated process for purposes of voting. The VMD is an addition and an additional safeguard. Thank you, Kate.
Thank you so much, GCO Shiburi. I'm going to open the floor for questions. It's a very busy voting day. Let me have the officials to assist us. I'll start from this row and then going that way. If someone has covered your question, be covered. Thank you. Let's proceed.
I'm Itumeleng Mafisa from The Citizen. I would like firstly to ask about circulating videos of what seems like there's tampering of ballot boxes. I don't know if you've seen that. I don't mind sharing that after this press conference. Secondly, I'd like to find out what the problem with the scanners are. There seems to be complaints about scanners in different parts of Joburg. You know, there's also complaints about poor training in terms of IEC staff. I'd like to know if the staff was adequately trained, how long this process took, and perhaps thirdly, I would like to find out, you know, what the process is as soon as results start trickling in. Are we likely to see, you know, politicians coming in, perhaps negotiating coalitions already on this floor? What's going to happen? Thank you.
All right, thank you so much.
Hi there, Darby Scholes from News 24. Just one very simple question. Do we know how many people have already voted by now?
Christian de Plessis from Netwerk 24. Can you just explain what is the issue with the voter management devices at this stage, and what will now happen if they are not used? What is the repercussions of this? And then secondly, there's also been reports of voters at certain voting stations only receiving 2 ballot papers or 1 ballot paper. Are you aware of this issue, and what are you doing to address this? Thank you.
Natasha from News 24. Can you please explain what the problem was for the lack of enough ballot papers? Because surely each voting station has a voter's roll with the number of ballots required. So why did that become a problem? Thank you.
Norman Masungwini from City Press. My question relates to the problems that have been encountered by various voting stations. What contingency plan does the IEC has if those problems are not resolved early and the queue spaces to take long by 9 o'clock? Thank you.
Thank you so much. Let me allow the team to respond, and then we'll take the second and final round of questions. Thank you.
Thanks. I presume the video that you're referring to is a video of ballot boxes shown in an open field in what the video is headed as Modimolle in the Limpopo province. The circumstances around that ballot are as follows. On the day of special vote on day one, the presiding officer had assembled 3 ballot boxes, meaning a ballot box for each ballot type. That goes against the training because we only use a single ballot box to put the votes into an envelope and to deposit that envelope into a ballot box at the station. So when the presiding officer was alerted to that instance, they proceeded to remove the 2 other assembled boxes from the station and left them laying out in the open, and that way videos were made of that incident. The incidents ought not to have happened. However, we can assure you that no cast ballots were placed at risk in that instance. The issue of training for purposes of election, presiding officers, deputy presiding officers, and voters' roll officers are put through a modularized training over 4 days, which covers the logistics handling, electoral administration, administration of a voting station, as well as the counting procedure. A person who is trained ought to have received or attained an assessment of 80% before they are placed at the voting station. A person who doesn't meet that requirement can be presented and placed at the voting station, at least for those 3 leadership roles. The processes following the close of voting stations is as follows. We vote in the presence of party agents. The ballot box that were cast for special votes over Monday and Tuesday will, during the course of the day, be introduced at the voting station. When an opportunity permits, the process of verification will commence. In other words, we take out the outer envelope that has the details of the voter. We compare that outer envelope against the voter's roll and the pre-approved list of special votes at the voting station. Once we have assurance that only people who appeared on the roll and on those lists of voters were allowed to vote, we will discard the outer envelopes which has the details of the voter. The second envelope, which is unmarked, will then be mixed with the ballots in use at that station so that you delink a vote from the voter. You keep the sanctity of the secrecy of the vote. Once we've closed stations, the very same station converts into a voting station. In other words, no ballots that are uncounted will leave the station. We count in the presence of party agents and those who represent independent candidates. Even during the count, party agents and representative of agents may raise objections to the sorting, counting, and tallying of votes. And once the vote is done, we produce result slips in duplicate. Parties are allowed to take photographs of those images, and one image of the result must be left on the door or at the fence of a voting station as a public announcement of the outcome of the result at that voting station. The second result slip is transported in tamper evident bag for purposes of capturing at our local site. The point to be re-emphasized is that there is no online transmission of results from a voting station to a data center. The results are captured at the local office of the IEC in the presence of representatives of political parties, in the presence of independent auditors before each result is declared. How many people have voted? We have indications, however, the law precludes us from doing exit polls on election day. and also only results of valid votes are announced. So we are unable to share the project, we are unable to show voter turnout as it speaks, but we can say by 11 o'clock, a significant majority of the 27.7 million people had voted. That accords to the history up to now, where majority of voters vote by 11 o'clock, in each election, except the odd one was 2021, where we had a spread of voters across the day. The VMD is not a requirement in law for the voting process. It was added as an additional safeguard to avoid instances and possibilities of people presenting at one station, voting, vitiating the efficacy of the indelible ink, and presenting at another station to vote. But since 2021, the law has been changed, and a person may only vote at the voting station at which they are registered unless they have given the Commission prior notification of their intention to vote elsewhere. So that's a long answer of saying the VMD has no practical or doesn't reduce the integrity of the results that will be announced. It is a tool added to facilitate the smooth flow of voters and also facilitate people finding their names on the voters roll and helping us to maintain a seamless online voters roll. However, where it proves to be a hindrance rather than an enabler to voting, we can put the VMDs aside and continue following the legislated method of removing people from the hard copy of the voters roll. The issue of ballot papers in Johannesburg, it is not a shortage in the supply. The instructions are as follows. Not party agents, my apologies. Presiding officers and area managers are responsible for the rollout of logistics to voting stations. Where there are enough teams, it is easier to do that, to escort those people. This morning, an assessment was made that there would not be enough teams to escort all those teams of presiding officers at a go-to voting station. It was agreed that bigger vehicles will be used to transport a cluster of voting stations so that there could be better escort of those materials. Because one vehicle needed to deliver at multiple sites, it caused that there were delays in arriving at certain stations. The last station at which provisions were delivered was the Craig Hall Primary School, just around 9:15. It was an avoidable thing that ought not to have happened. It has happened. We are dealing with the repercussions, but all people who present themselves will be allowed to vote. The problems that we've experienced today are not intractable. They do not amount to the deviation from the legal requirement and the standard for free and fair elections. We could have done without them, but they have presented and we are dealing with them together with stakeholders, with candidates, and for that reasons we will be sending clear instructions to presiding officers on how to deal with the situation going forward following our discussions with representatives of political contestants at the National PLC meeting. Thank you very much, Kate.
I had a few hands up. Let's take the last round before we go vote. Yes. I don't see any. Okay, after this session, please take the mic to this side. Thank you very much. Let's proceed and then we'll be done.
Good afternoon. My name is Jonathan Ramotse from Platinum Northwest TV. We're getting reports from our colleagues on the ground that there are stations where people can be found on the voters' roll, and they claim that they've registered in those stations, specifically in the Klerksdorp area. Hoër School, Skoonspreid is one of those voting stations where people can be found. How is IEC going to assist with this?
Can I say?
Okay, I've got a hand. Okay, let's just confirm the order of the hands. I've covered this section. There's one hand here, and I'm taking the last on the other side. I'm going to start from the front and then end at the back. Thank you very much. Ceci.
It's Natasha Perry here from SABC News.
Natasha, I need your sound, please.
Excuse us,
Thank
Kate.
you.
Sorry, it's been a long day.
All right.
Ndate Shiburi, we had an opportunity to speak to the former Nigerian president, Mr. Goodluck Jonathan. Although he lauded the IEC for a job well done, he had lamented the issue of ballot boxes, like you've also alluded to, not getting to voting stations on time. And the ballots, he had said that ballots needs to be easily identifiable. Is this something that you'll take into consideration as a commission? And then further on, just to follow up to your comments about the training of the presiding officers, there have been some concerns at voting stations that were raised by voters to say that not all your presiding officers somewhat know the correct procedures around the Section 24A vote. So do you know anything about that? Thank you.
Okay. We've got a question here from Randall Wolf from Reuters.
Speak louder, please, Piladi.
A question from Wendell Ruth at Reuters. Police Minister said this morning that one polling station was not open today in the Eastern Cape and that the IEC had withdrawn their staff after the community decided not to participate in the vote. Is this correct, true? Where is it and what's being done to rectify the situation? Thank you.
Okay.
All right, let's take this. So we still have two other hands just towards the back, then we'll be done.
Okay. Good afternoon. Thank you, Kate. Dan Moyane here from ENCA. While we appreciate, Ndate Shiburi, that you can't tell us or give us an idea how many people you think have voted, but you've noted in your statement the enthusiasm you say South Africans have demonstrated today in order to record their political choices. Are you able at least to indicate the trend in terms of turnout? At this stage, it's like 6.5 hours since you opened the polling stations. Is there an idea you are getting that are we headed for a higher turnout than we saw in 2019 when 66% of the registered 26.7 million voters then voted? Thank you.
Right. Thank you very much. Wampai Pulane. Ndate, please, let's proceed.
Okay, thank you. My name is Tsepwe Ganim from the SABC. There's been a last-minute rush to gather IDs from Home Affairs. And over the past 48 hours, people were told that some systems are not working in some part of the country. Has that been brought to your attention, and does that concerns the Commission? Thank you.
Thank you very much. DCO, let's go.
Thank you. We were incidentally in discussions with the Department of Home Affairs last night. They shared the following with us. Just yesterday, between 4 and 9 in the evening, 16,000 identification documents were collected by voters. The department will match our opening and operating hours today. They will remain open until 9 in order to issue temporary identification certificates or or allow the collection of ID numbers by those who would have applied. Braden, the Commission planned on receiving as many voters as would participate. You'll see from our provisioning. We also estimated that the turnout may be more than 66%. So that is the plans on which, the basis on which we made our plans, and we are happy to report that the steady flow, if early indications are anything to go by, we may match or just surpass the 66% voter turnout. And that is not blind hope. It is hope informed by the following. Between 2021 and the certification of the voters' roll before this election, we lost no fewer than 800,000 people on the voters' roll. Even with that net decline, we were able to significantly improve the registration figures to 27.7 million, which is the biggest voting block, which is the biggest size of the voters' roll we've ever had to compile going into an election. Without sounding like we underplay the reports that are coming, it is very useful in an election process that we keep proper perspective, and the perspective is as follows. We have over 200,000 people that we've employed to run elections today. We run elections at 23,292 voting stations, involving 70 unique political parties, 11 independent candidates, 31 of those parties contesting for the first time. So whatever report you receive, assess it against the total population. Is one voting station representative of the voting experience of all voters in the country? Obviously not. However, we also accept that a vote is a personal matter. So we must give dignity to each and every voter because it is a personal experience. It is cold comfort to say, in general, things happened very well. We are sorry that we had an inconvenience. No, that's not what we are trying to say. Secondly, if you receive a report that the people do not find themselves on the voters' roll, please ask the following question. Was it the voters' roll or was it a list of people who were approved to vote by special vote or section 24A? Why do I say that? The voters' roll that we have on the VMD and the voters' roll that is printed in hard copy at the voting station are identical. The only difference is that one is electronic, the other is printed on a hard paper. So it is not possible that one will appear on the one and not on the other. It is possible, though, that a person may not appear on the section 24A list because either they did not apply, or two, because having applied and having been given proof that they have applied, they subsequently did another transaction which removed them from that voting station. These are not things that we do lightly. We do these things to safeguard the cardinal rule in an election of one person, one vote. The where school spread view, let's look at those the specific issues before we issue a broad response that may be uninformed. The voting station in the Eastern Cape where we do not operate in the morning, it is, I can't pronounce the name very well, so you'll pardon me. I think it is Kikamashoek. And again, there we are unable to operate, not because our staff were not there. Staff were there early with materials, but the community have a grievance with the land claim process. And for that reason, they decided that no one there will vote. On our part, we will present at the voting station, provide a service, and those among those community members who are inclined to avail themselves of that service will be able to receive a service. Thank you very much. Oh, the issue about the comment ascribed to one of the leaders of the observer mission. The commission deliberately chooses to use cardboard material for ballot papers and voting station material because they are kinder to the environment. Cardboard is biodegradable. You can recycle it. We do not use translucent ballot boxes that are made out of plastic. The perception is that those ones add more credibility and integrity, but that's not true. Cardboard ballot papers come flat at the station. They are assembled in the presence of party agents at the station, so they serve the facility equally. And a person is given a single ballot, you can see when they deposit that ballot at the voting station. People vote against the voter's roll, so you know who is voting at that station, and there are reconciliations and ballot paper statement issued at the close of voting station to account for the ballots received, the ballots issued, and the ballot that must be inside the ballot box. Thank you very much and enjoy the rest of voting day.
On that note, ladies and gentlemen, we meet at 19 hours. Let's go vote in the Ariso Feeds. All right, thank you very much.